All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 21 of Top Bin Talks presented by FTF Canada. My name is Adam Jones, joined as always by my co-host, Kwame Owua. And today we are joined by a very special guest, someone who I've had the pleasure of knowing for a long time now. He's one of my close friends. He started his soccer career at Burnaby Metro Selects, which quickly turned into Mountain FC of the BCSPL before he headed down south to play for the Portland Timbers in the old USSDA. From there, he came up to the mountain, came back home up to SFU, which is where he and I met. And then from there, he started his coaching career right from the jump after he graduated up at SFU before moving to FC Edmonton. And he's now with Whitecaps FC2. Welcome to the show, Brendan Shaw.
Wow, what an intro.
Sir.
What an intro.
Getting better. I'm getting better.
Oh, man. This podcast thing, you're getting better at it.
Hey, it's just practice, right?
Sir.
It's like anything else. You just got to keep doing it. You're going to be shit at the start if you don't keep with it.
That's it.
What's the point?
That's it.
We're not even grading ourselves on that. We kind of just go with the flow. It's like whatever I know about you is what I know about you, and after that, we just gonna talk shit. So I'm happy that you're on.
That's what I like about this, man. This is you guys just go with the vibe. I like it. And I gotta add from the start, Kwame, my lone interaction with you from my time in at FC Edmonton CPL, and probably the most memorable thing I know about you is when we were playing you in the bubble. You remember the COVID bubble in Winnipeg?
Yeah.
And same old Forge. You guys have a little, slow start, and then you go destroy everyone by the end. But in the slow start, we got a win. I think it was our first win against anyone.
Oh, when Eshua scored from like half the ball.
Yes, yeah. It was
my
crazy
days.
goal. And
Bro, you guys scored two of the best goals ever. I was like, you gotta let that happen.
Yeah, it was two insane goals, and we were just grinding it out and defending like hell, and you guys were playing around us. And then you're just going around, man, these guys are Stoke City, man. These guys are Stoke City. That's what you just kept saying. I thought it was the funniest thing ever. I was like, I don't know how to feel about this right now.
You're like, where's Rory Delap? Where's Rory Delap? Who's got the long throw?
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm gonna tell you the truth. Going into that season, like we had us and York probably, as you can see in the beginning of the bubble, like we had the shortest time to do any preseason. We had 10 days before we got to the bubble to do preseason, and that's not an excuse. 100%. Like you guys scored crazy goals. Like when goals like that go in, you're meant to lose the game because like God is on you guys' side at that point. Like that ball, the ball was like 45, 48 yards away, like right via past half. So it's like you can't really do anything about that. But like you guys have always given us since 2019, you guys have always given us like Forge a hard time defensively. Like I know Allen was like, okay, we're probably not gonna play these guys off the park, but we can grind one out. And then when you guys had Easton, it was just a challenge because it's like, okay, no one's gonna challenge him in the air. Like our average height was probably like 5'10". Until we got David Edgar, that was the only thing. Like then we lost him the year after. We lost Dejan Jokovic as well, right before we played you guys.
Early,
So it was like, so it was almost like, all right, you know what? Like, I'm gonna get. And that year, I was like, I was in the mind frame like this was gonna be my last year, so I'm talking all the shit I want.
Yeah.
I was not having it.
I didn't mind it, man. I thought it was funny. I was just like, hey,
But
this is
Alan was probably like, this guy's a dick. And I'm like, bro, I was like, it is what it is at that point.
no, it was early days for you guys too. So like we actually had a long preseason, and we went from like doing one-on-one sessions, just the way the COVID rules worked that year. It was like one-on-one sessions was all you could do, and then you could do 2-on-1 sessions, and then we're working with like units, and then the full team. Like it was actually a proper preseason we had because of the rules in Alberta. And
because Alberta's Texas, BC is California, Ontario's New York.
New York, literally. Like you couldn't even, we couldn't even, and I'll let you know on a little secret, like we had to go to a private park that no one went to in Hamilton to train. Yeah. Like we technically weren't even supposed to be training like full team, but you know Bobby's militant. He don't give a damn. Like if the police pull up, he gonna give them the same answer he giving everybody else.
Yeah, and like everybody knew by the end of the season, you guys were gonna be like flying. It just took you a while to get going. Like most seasons with
it's Forge. Yeah, every time.
Even this season, like they're going through a little bit of a rocky kind of phase right now, but by the time like the playoffs are there, that team's going to be like not only the 11 guys, like the whole 18 are going to be top of their game. You know what I mean?
That's fun. That's funny that you remember that, because I talk a lot of shit and I don't think a lot of people hear what I say. But that's hilarious. Maybe because I play on the sideline, so like you can hear a lot more. But like I be saying a lot. I'm happy you heard that, because I be saying a lot more shit about other teams. Like, yo, it's wild.
Probably
actually,
people around you
were-
too often just tune you out now. Colby. It's in one ear out the other. They don't even remember half the shit.
But the thing is like I have the game. I'll have the game to back it up. That's the only thing. Like if I was talking shit and like let's almost like a Draymond Green. Like he ain't shooting, he ain't scoring. Like, you know what I mean? But at least I'm creating stuff. So on that end, I'm like, at least I'm gonna talk shit when I know I'm doing something.
No, you were a pain to coach against, man, because for 5 minutes you were a fullback and then you come inside as a midfielder.
Midfield.
We didn't know how to deal with it that year. It was tough, man. You had a good year that year, but no, I just found that was funny. That was a funny moment.
That's hilarious. That's actually hilarious.
All
right, Brandon, tell us more about yourself, man. The beginning, obviously how you met Adam, your fondest memory of Adam. Who was better in college?
That might not be a good one to go, because that might not be on the pitch.
No, I've known Jonesy for a long time.
Spill some tea, man.
Yeah. No, he was he was like the veteran presence, even though it was his first or second year when I came into Simon Fraser University as a player. He was like, you could tell he was, mature among his years. So he was already bossing the guys around, letting the young guys know what it was about, because I'm sure like Jonesy, you played in youth, you played up a lot, right? You were on men's teams when you were.
I never played my own age. So like I only played my own age, I think maybe for 4 years. All 3 national years I played my own age, but every other year I played a year up, because that was the national year for them. Or my U16 year, which used to be a national year, I played in U18 the whole year with that's with Carlo Basso's group and that Dynamo group. I was up with them every weekend, and then from 15 on I was up with the Wolves with the men's premier team. So
and you could tell like it was a good kind of team to come into, because everyone was you had high expectations. I don't know, because I'm away from the university game now, so I don't know how to rank SFU with all the U Sports teams, but I'm pretty confident to say, like, at the time when we were playing, we were probably one of the top Canadian universities teams. Like we would have done really well in U Sports if we're in that, but you don't get that recognition because we're in the NCAA Division II, right? So but no, my fondest memory, I would say it's got to be down on a cold, rainy Saturday night, lights are on, Derby game, Seattle Pacific. I think there was like a span of like 25 minutes where Jonesy just 4 goals, and it wasn't just like your average goals, like 4 bangers against them, and we won like 5-2 against our rivals. It was like a big moment.
It was 3.
You scored a hat trick?
I thought it was 4.
No, it was 3. It was 3. Okay. So it was like,
but all were worldies, like top.
Playing what? The 8? Playing 8?
10. I played 10.
10? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Well, he didn't defend. We all know that. He was the 10. He just stood in there. And
I learned how to defend. Paul Scholes, bro. His favorite player is Paul Scholes. So you think he played 8 box to box?
No. Big time stats player, man. He was big time
stat patter.
I respect him, man.
And at the time, NCAA, they had like some rule where a goal was worth 2 points and an assist
worth 1.
So by the end of the season, how many points you have? You have like 40 something points. Everyone's like, what? How's this guy have 40 points? But because of the numbers and all that. But yeah, those are good.
Question for both of you guys. Like, obviously, you guys both went to an NCAA school, but it's the only Canadian one. Like, did you guys always feel pressure to always have to perform because you guys were the only Canadian NCAA school compared to the U Sports? Like, obviously, like you'd slap pressure, but it's not the same because you're competing against Americans, and Americans are like, yo, why do we have to go to Canada?
No, it wasn't really that. You felt pressure because of kind of what came before you. So like the group that SFU had before us. So the year that they fully transitioned to the NCAA when they couldn't play, they went undefeated. Like they weren't allowed to compete in the NCAA tournament. Like that was probably the best team they've ever had. But there's like that transition year where you're not allowed to compete in the tournament for 1 year. It's like a probation year. So that team does that. The next 2 years, which would have been technically, those would have been my first 2 years if I had gone straight out of high school. They went to back-to-back Final Fours.
I think there was a guy from Sigma that was on that team, bro.
Oh,
Yeah,
it was
we had one.
Quante.
Yes,
Quante.
Quante, bro.
So Quante was in
Yes.
one of those groups, and then that
Yeah.
was also they would have they lost to
Quante
Southern New
Smith,
Hampshire
bro.
one year.
Yeah, that's Dom school. That's where
That's
Dom
Dom.
went.
So like that, like
Yeah.
those years, right? So you had those, like those were the 2 years that
Mm.
I was coming into. My first year there when I was deemed ineligible, NCAA said I was ineligible, all this stuff. That was the year where Jovan scored 18 goals in 18 games and was an MLS draft pick. You know, like that's
dope.
so you didn't feel pressure from other Canadian schools, like, and crazy enough, like at the time too, and Shazi knows this, at the time they go back-to-back Final Fours, they weren't even the best team in BC.
Yeah.
UBC
was?
Nile UBC
Oh shit.
with Malad, both Malad and Naveed. You had Gagan, you had Nile Cousins up top. Like they played games, and this SFU team was filthy. Like they played like 2 games or 3 games over a year. They lost 12-2 on aggregate to UBC, because UBC and U Sports, there's different rules with all these older guys, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, you
So-
always felt there was something against you though, because you're the one Canadian school, and
Mhm. That's what I
you know,
mean.
like-
Like that would feel weird.
yeah,
when it
Yeah,
came
it
to
is.
rankings and seeding and stuff, you always felt
Yeah.
like you're like, and that was the crazy thing about
Blackballed. Yeah.
that was the crazy thing about that one year though, where we were number 1 in the country. We were the number 1 team in the NCAA one year.
yeah. And you'd go down there and they wouldn't do your anthem, or they'd come up to you and you know, they'd complain to the league like we shouldn't be having to go across the border and all this. I think our playoffs, we had to host playoffs in
Yeah.
Seattle. We couldn't host our own games at our home field. Like there's some crazy stuff like that, but no, it was a good team. It was a fun time. It's just something different. Like no other team in Canada was like that. Hopefully they get a national championship one of these years, because that'd be cool to say, you know, kings of the US and a Canadian school. I'd like to see that.
No, it'd be wicked.
Yeah.
Like that is the one thing. It's a really cool experience, obviously. And people kind of don't understand that, how like every away game you're going across the border every single time.
Yeah.
Like
My
it-
first time going to SFU was when we played Vancouver too last year. Like that's where we trained.
Okay.
So I was like, yeah, instead
That's
of
right. He
obviously we
told me,
didn't
he's like,
train at
what is this
UBC.
shit turf?
Yo, the turf was absolutely, but like I was spoiled though, because like our team was already an MLS made team. So like our facility and everything, 5-star, everything. So then you go to like these places, you're like, nah, what is going on? Like this turf was harder than a rock. Like everything
you had
about it.
the multi-millionaire team over there in St. Louis. You had high expectations. I get it, man.
Yeah. So then we pulled up. I was like, damn, this is what people at SFU played on all these years. Like, you guys want to flip the turf, bro? Come on.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm also not gonna lie, Kwame. There's like I have a couple of favorite moments with Shazi too, because a couple of his goals. How many goals you scored at SFU in your career, Shaw?
Not many. I'll say
I
that.
know. I assisted on 2 of them as well, and they're some of the best celebrations we had on the pitch too. They're fucking
When you
classic.
don't score much and you
I gotta
scoring,
find the videos of them.
You
though.
have to celebrate.
They're top.
That's what's
They're-
up.
They're top. And then the other one I would say is it would have been your first year in spring when we played TFC in the Whitecaps.
Oh yeah. Yeah, TFC 2. Yeah.
TFC 2 in the Whitecaps
What-
2 is when we played Manila, Raheem Edwards, Skylar Thomas, Mark Anthony Kay was there, Liam Fraser was there.
Mhm.
And then on the Whitecaps, you had Fonzie, you had Bustos, you had
Chubby, yeah,
Kyle
Chubby
Gregg,
Bustos. Yeah, Chubby Bustos.
Chubby Bustos.
Kyle
We had the
Gregg,
Chubby
Daniel
Bustos.
Haber. They were quality, and those are some of the most memorable
Yeah.
games I think we played up there.
Yeah, because no one expected us to do anything against those guys. I think there's still a video out there somewhere of Fonzie running down the wing, and I'm running behind him, just trying to catch this guy. And he's probably like, the funny thing is, before that game, I remember saying like, you know, they got a 15-year-old on the pitch. They don't respect us. You know, make sure you let them know who we are. Who the hell puts a 15-year-old in a game, like trying to get the guys fired up? Little did I know, this guy turns out to be a world superstar, and he's you know, what an idiot I am when I look back at that. But I'm like, 15-year-old, who these guys think we are? Like, this is a college team. They don't respect us in this. And then there's a video of him just running down the line and me just trying to catch him and foul him and kick the back of his heels and can't do anything about it. He's just so damn fast. But
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
look
we
at
tied
and
those 2 games. So
tied both, and we actually should have beat TFC. Funny
Yeah.
enough. And
Yeah.
then also you see that look at the kind of the presence he had freshman in college. That's what he's saying. So I earned the nickname Uncle Shaw as a freshman.
That's hilarious.
Who gave you that
Uncle
nickname?
Shaw.
That's right.
Who gave you that nickname? Was that Whit?
I think it was one of the English guys. Yeah, we had a few international guys, and they love that stuff.
Yeah. No, honestly, that is absolutely dope. Like, obviously, I've had some of my friends on the podcast as well. And, like, we share stories about like our times together. So it's kind of cool to hear someone else talk about Jonesy, because he says he's Paul Scholes, and Paul Scholes don't really score like that.
I don't say I'm Paul Scholes. What are you talking about?
No,
I
he
do
doesn't
not
say he's Paul
that.
Scholes. He says his favorite player is Paul Scholes. So I'm thinking, he said, I play center mid, this and that. But if he's scoring worldies, that's what Paul Scholes does. He scores worldies. So I gotta respect it. So you guys go from obviously playing in college together, and then right after college, you decided to become a coach. Like, what made you want to transition into coaching? Like, what about coaching appealed to you?
Yeah, it was actually during my time as a player at SFU when I started to coach. Like, my father was a coach in the community, coached a lot of youth teams. He coached me growing up. And, with some of the off season in university, I had a bit more time on my hands. And so he'd say, hey, you want to come down and, just train with the group, which led to me kind of coaching or helping him out on the pitch with like a U16 or a U17 local side at the time. And he would just say, here's 6 players, go do whatever you want. I'm doing this, go do your thing. And I had no idea at the time. I'd be lost, but from what you gather from coaches you've had in the past and things you like, maybe things you don't like, I just pieced together some things. And after like, I'd say a couple months, I was hooked. Like, I really loved that. I was with Mountain United, which is a local side that pushes a lot of players into the Whitecaps Academy. And so it's all motivated players, good level. You got these kids looking at you like, okay, guide me, tell me what to do. Like, they want to learn, and they're all eager, motivated, and good players at the same time. So I found it really rewarding to step in and just, trying to create some sort of organization for whether it was a back four or pressing with a front four and all these tactical things. And then on the side of that, at the same time, my sister, she was a bit younger than me, still trying to push on to college football and make, youth national teams and stuff like that. So she always wanted to go to the park and do extra training. And so I would just, on the individual side, not really think of it as coaching, but just go and work with her and do a lot of one-on-one sessions where I wasn't trying to, I was at university. I knew that was my ceiling as a player. So I was more just really loved the game, wanted to do more in it, and went from, my university training session, grab my stuff, put on a different jacket, and run out to the pitch with a bunch of kids every night. And that was my day. Was go to school in the day, train with the team, and then go coach. And then as time went on and I stopped playing less and less, I just started doing more coaching because I wanted to stay in the game. And yeah, I love it. I like most coaches, like most people in the game, as players as well. When you're at the professional level, you don't see it as a job, right? You just, you just love it so much. So yeah, that's how I started, and then it kind of just grew from there.
Yeah, bro, that is. I was gonna ask you, as obviously you're going through your story. My first question was, how does it feel to be coached by your parents? Because me growing up, my parents never came to. I can count on one hand, maybe both hands, how many games through my whole life. I started playing when I was 3 that my mom has come to. Like, my dad only started coming to my games when I started playing at 4, so it was closer to home. So like, how do you feel that like your dad was so active in your soccer? How was that growing up until you realize, all right, like, let me make my own decision. Like, you don't need to coach me anymore. How was that transition from being coached from your dad to?
Yeah, that's a good question, because like it's kind of a unique situation. You're on the team, all the other players on the team, their parents have no involvement, so it's just your dad. And for me, he probably wanted to prove a point a lot of the time. So if things were going poorly as a team, you go, right, Brendan, you're off. You get him off first. And so he challenged me a lot more, because I think he was aware of the surrounding and how that can be a bit, you don't want to be biased as a parent. And so he was probably more hard on me than the rest of the players, but that helped me as a player. And at the same time, when I look back at what I know as a coach, he wasn't a very tactical coach or someone who was very into the game. And he doesn't mind me saying this, but he could motivate anyone to play for him. And so I take a lot from like the personal people management side and how we dealt with people to work for him, like giving 100% every game and making sure even at U18, U19 players are showing up to 3 trainings a week and working their asses off for him. So I took a lot of the, motivational side and leadership side from him, even as a player. But yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of tactics and intricacies with how we play. It was more the that side of it. But no, it was fine. I enjoyed it. And obviously I've been on other teams, many other teams where he wasn't the coach, and you get different perspectives. So yeah, I got a good mix of both, I think.
I think that's what they say about Carlo. Sorry to cut you off. That's what they say about Carlo Ancelotti, and that's why he's been able to coach like the PSGs, the AC Milans, Real Madrid. They say they're not saying that like he's not a tactical coach. Obviously, of course, to coach there, you need to be a good tactical coach. But they say it's more of his player managing, and a lot of people forget about that side of coaching or football because at the highest level, everybody's good. There's only a little difference between if someone's having a bad day personally, how do you still have them perform? Right. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, we're all human. So, like, a lot of coaches probably forget, like, hey, this guy's having a shit day. Maybe I shouldn't put as much pressure on him today. And then maybe he comes out of that funk. So that's a smart thing. So yeah, that's another thing a coach should look at.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of times coaches, they get so worried about that like technical, tactical side, and they forget about that other side of like, you can have the best tactics and knowledge of the game in the world, but if you don't know how to deliver it and execute that message to a player and have that player bought in and really want to do it for you, or find a reason for him to do it, then what's the point? It's a waste, right? So that is the biggest part of coaching. Yeah.
Well, I think like even you just mentioned it there, Shazi, like it's almost like it's being able to explain what you want from them.
Yeah.
If they can't understand what you're looking to get out of them, how are they going to do it on the pitch?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's one thing that I've noticed a lot more now, just because, the little that I do coach and the amount that I watch now, like I actually listen for what people are trying to say and what they're trying to get across.
Yeah.
And I look at the players' reactions and I'm like, I don't think he understands that.
Yeah.
Like if you're using new language, like, are you using the specific same language all the time?
Right.
Like all those little things, like there's a lot more intricacies like that, like you mentioned. And then also like, going on to playing at the levels you did. I mean, as someone who had a father as their coach for a little while, if you can take it on the car ride home and at home until the next session, whatever anyone else says to you doesn't really matter.
Exactly. Yeah. You build tough skin. That's right.
It built a callus for sure.
Oh yeah. The skin's impenetrable.
So you're an assistant coach for obviously SFU, and then you get the call for FC Edmonton. How does that conversation go with Koch? Like, how do you end up at FC Edmonton? Obviously having to pick up and move from BC. Obviously it's not a big trip, but it's still a trip.
Yeah. For
sure. Edmonton's a miserable place. I just tell the truth on this podcast, bro. Like Edmonton's miserable.
I'm just laughing because I'm going there.
Come on.
I'm going there in like 5 days.
Edmonton's a miserable place. We be real. No.
In the winter, maybe. You got to go there in the summer, man.
We walked downtown Edmonton, and it is a barren wasteland. A lot of crackheads, though.
You just got to go to the right areas. It's like any city. There's some bad areas, some good areas.
Oh, man.
You were just not in the know to go to the right areas, man.
All right, man. I was just going to go chill with Connor McDavid.
Yeah. Hey, if he's still there and he's loving it, he hasn't asked for a trade yet, then there must be some good things about it.
He's making way too much money for him to ask for a trade. Yeah. So how does that conversation with Alan? He coming from MLS, FC Cincinnati, like big name coach coming to the CPL, knows Canadian talent, had some Canadian talent at Cincinnati. Like, How does that conversation go? And
Yeah,
what was your reaction?
Yeah, he actually recruited me as a player, like right before he left SFU, as because he was
Okay.
the coach at Simon Fraser.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's the one who brought me
That
in.
was where he kind of not started, but he had a really, like Adam said at the start, those successful years. It was under him, and before he left to take on Whitecaps 2, he was the Simon Fraser coach, and so he recruited me as a player. And then we kind of lost touch, and he obviously coached Whitecaps 2 and coached in Cincinnati, Colorado Switchbacks in USL, and had some really successful times there, especially in Cincinnati in the USL. But when he was between jobs or coming back for different off seasons, he would always come back to SFU, and we would maybe be in preseason or training, and he would just come and observe and watch. He's a football guy like all of us, so we just wanted to shadow, see things, see how it was going. And so we kind of built a relationship when I was just starting a couple of years into my coaching job at SFU as an assistant. So he would come by, and we would connect more from a coach to coach, not coach to player relationship. And so when he got the job in Edmonton and we kind of had that relationship, he reached out and told me what he wanted to do and the goals behind it. And obviously it's a big jump, not just moving cities, but for me, the whole moving out of my hometown, and like you said, Edmonton's a very different city when it comes to weather and the culture and everything around it. I knew nothing about
professionals,
it.
guys might be older than you.
That's
you gain
right.
that respect as a coach.
Exactly. At the time, it was kind of like I was going to be an assistant, but also lead the second team that they had there, because they had quite a good academy at the time. But right as I came in, the academy was shut down, and I was thrown into it. And I think that was the best thing for me. I didn't have time to think about it. I just do what I always do at SFU and try to just coach to the best of my ability. And like you said, a lot of the guys were older than me, but Alan was great with me. He was not only a guy who could motivate players, but he motivated me a lot. I learned a lot from him, from coach to coach. And yeah, I enjoyed my time there, man, even though it wasn't the most successful season, 2021. We didn't get the wooden spoon. Ottawa was the wooden spoon that year. I always remind people of that. And the year before,
Ottawa was bad.
Yeah, they were poor that year, but they went on to win it this next season following. So
crazy, because I never lost to Ottawa, so I'm happy.
Wow.
I can say that. I've lost to every team except for Ottawa, and I played Ottawa like 17 times.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's that. No, but yeah, that journey is actually pretty dope, because like obviously I didn't know Alan was a coach at SFU, so even his journey is cool as hell.
Well, he was a player at SFU.
See, look at that.
Alan played, so like this is like the degree of separation, right? Like so he played at SFU, and then he was coaching at another D2 school at the time. And he actually had some people who I'm now really close friends with who played for him there that he brought to SFU from down there. It's just it's insane.
Yeah,
it's insane. The SFU connection alumni is pretty awesome, to be honest.
Yeah.
But Shazi, so take us back. Like obviously you're thinking about coaching full time now. You decide to do your UEFA licenses rather than going through the Canadian process. Do you want what was your motivation for that? And B, why should everyone else do that and just skip these bullshit Zoom calls?
No, I did a few actually up to the C license, because I think BC Soccer does a good
job. You have to. I've done those too.
No, I don't know. I did a few of the CSA ones, like the children's license, the youth license, because I know they've switched it recently.
Learn to train, all those.
Yeah, but no, I have a lot of family in Belfast, Northern Ireland. So when I got the opportunity to go there, I just took it because it's something different. You connect with coaches from all over the world, learn different ideas, keep it fresh, man. It's tough. Like in Vancouver, there's a lot of the same, like when it comes to how teams play. And then you go and you talk to a guy from South Africa, you talk to a guy from Indonesia, you talk to a guy from Ireland, and they all have these different ideas of the game and how they train and how they work. And it's like, man, I've never heard about this in my life. So just getting out of my comfort zone, getting out of my country, and seeing different things was really helpful for my journey as a coach, because it just makes you think differently. And yeah, it was almost like in the off season, a chance to go and, see some of my relatives, see some of my family, and connect with people I knew over there too. So I kind of did 2 in 1. And I really enjoyed it. They did a good job. I did it with the Irish Football Association, and I just finished my A license. So there is a pro license that's the one above, but I think I'm going to give it some time until I look at seriously doing that. Just there's so much theoretical you can do. At eventually you just got to do some practical stuff, and I find the best learning is when you're on the pitch doing it yourself, right? So it's good, the courses, but the best learning you'll get is like doing it yourself with your team, and you're put in the situations to try and win a game. So I find that way more helpful. Courses make you think different, but being in it is the best way to do it, I think.
How long is that travel to Northern Ireland? Obviously, you got to fly probably to Toronto, and then Toronto to, that's like what, 10 hours, 11, 12 hour?
I'd say, it's a full day, man. Like 13, 14 hours, I think, if you put it all there.
Yeah, next time you go, when you stop in Toronto, there's an Irish place called Belfast Love. Go there.
Oh,
Got
nice.
you.
Nice.
Yeah, just to warm you up. Just to warm you up before you get to the next flight, until you actually get to Belfast.
What do I get if I say Kwame? If I say Kwame sent me, will I get kicked out, or will I get
Let's say, who the fuck is that?
Literally, and I love it like that. I don't want to be known anywhere. I don't want to be known in places that I should not be known in. That's fine, man. We move. But that's dope. How often do you get out to go to Europe? Obviously, I know it's a long travel. So like, how often do you get to go see your relatives? Like, I plan on going at the end of this year for my birthday.
Nice. Yeah. I probably go. I used to go like once every summer for a couple of weeks, just because there would be like 2 or 3 parts in the course. You do a lot of it online, and then you would do the rest of it together for like an intense 2-week period. So yeah, I went every summer. I haven't gone in. I went last year. I probably won't go for a few years now, but no, it was good. And nothing against the CSA ones. I just it was just something different and wanted to try it. So yeah.
Bro, we've had people on here, one of my trainers in the offseason, Richard Bucchiarelli, saying that the CSA licensing, there's certain aspects that they're missing, especially when it comes to the strength and conditioning part, when it comes to training the athlete. And like, there's a big thing called like obviously overtraining, but he believes that's a myth. He said most of the injuries come when your training's too light and it doesn't match the intensity of a game. Right. That's when people get hurt. And apparently, like in courses, like coaches nowadays are kind of like load managing and stuff like that. Like obviously, if you have like 3 games in a week, you lighten the load because guys need to perform. But like he's saying, if you have a game a week, there's no reason for you not to have intense training sessions that mirror or are even harder than games. And I usually say on Forge, that's one thing I can say with Bobby. Like we barely had any days off, and training was harder than games. Because we're all motherfuckers. First, like you said, I talk shit. So like, imagine me, and then imagine Bex, and imagine everybody else on the field talking shit to each other. So their mental intensity is already high. Yeah. And Bobby just gives you a look. He don't even yell at you. He just gives you that death stare. So like, then then you have like that's on your mind as well if you're fucking up. And then everybody else is really good. So like the competitive edge is there. Yeah. So like we're going into games like, if I can handle training, then I can definitely physically and mentally and tactically, whatever, all of it combines, like then I can handle these games.
I think that's it, man. Like some teams, and every team does it differently, and there's studies, and you can argue both ways. But I think the end of the day, like we can, especially at the pro level, I think coaches like they got to just hold the players back. They shouldn't be pushing them too much. It's holding them back because they want to do more. And there's such an environment where it's so intense, where you're not training at 50%. Like every training, like you said, is 100%, and everyone's intense. But maybe if you want to keep it light, you're doing, 2-minute bouts instead of 5-minute bouts, and giving less time for that intensity. But when you're in it, you're in it. Doesn't matter if it's a passing drill or a stupid finishing drill at the end of training. Like you got to have that competitive nature behind it. But maybe you can, mess with the timings or the space of the field, and that's where you can kind of impact it. But yeah, I don't believe anyone should, today's a light day, let's go 50%, just walk through things. No, when you're in it, like you said, you're only going to be prepared for the game if the training is harder than the game. So you have to have that. And yeah, I can see why you guys were so successful, and I can imagine your trainings would be probably some fights in between times.
And our turf wasn't any better than yours either, so don't worry about it.
No.
Because you kind of even mentioned like, okay, well, you want intensity to be there. That's obviously an environment thing that a coach has to create, especially at like a youth level. Having been in that and coached in BCSBL and now being on the outside watching, do you think that's something that kind of lacks? Like, is there a coaching education component that we're missing? Because I find that we are, personally.
Yeah, it's not even like it's not even something to do with football, like we talked about with the motivation stuff. It's how you create that is not with the soccer mind. It's like how you get through to people, so it's just that understanding of it. Because honestly, it's very tough for me to, when I look at like BCSPL, which is a good youth level in Canada, in BC, I can go and step in any training and every player like wants to be there. Every player is motivated. That's what annoys me when you hear it on like commentators on TV. It's like, oh, they just didn't want it today. It's like, obviously they wanted it, man. Like, everyone's at the pro level because they care.
That gets me so livid, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I can imagine as coaches, because like the amount of preparation you guys do, like I give coaches a lot of credit, because now that I'm on the sideline, I'm like a player coach. And sorry to cut you off, but like, you see how much effort coaches put into the slides, the training session, all that stuff. And then the players obviously were doing like the labor of it. But like, we don't just go out and be like, you know what, F this. Like, I don't really want to play, especially at the professional level. I don't really want to, because like, this is, for a lot of people, this is what feeds their family. So like, this can be taken away from you in an instant. So like, even COVID year, when we came back, I think I had my best year because I was like, look what happened with COVID and we didn't play at all. And I'm like, yo, what if we never come back to playing soccer? So like, once we came back, I was like, I'm not taking this shit for granted ever again. Because sometimes like you get perspective. So like, when commentators and stuff like that, especially guys that played at that level, say, oh, these guys just didn't want it today. I'm like, dog. Yeah. People can have bad days, but you cannot say people did not want it.
Yeah.
Like, you think we don't just go out there.
No. But to answer your question, Jonesy, I think what would lack when I watch some youth football is like, the players need to, I think they struggle knowing what they put that energy into, like the motivation and the tempo and the intensity. You can have all that, but like, if you're just running around like crazy and you don't know there's no purpose behind it, then you're going to be not very impactful in the game anyways. So just,
you're going to stop because you're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. Because there is a lot of like, and you see it in men's leagues a lot, like amateur, the highest level, it's really athletic and guys are pressing, but it's like, there's no like strategy behind this. Like, what's the point of one guy going crazy to press someone? The player on the ball will just wait for you to sprint down him, and then he'll play to the open guy. And now you've just wasted a 20-meter sprint because no one's gone with you. So it's like, we have to do a better job of kind of funneling that energy that the players have and making it useful for them to develop, I think.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I mean, like, again, part of Kwame talked about, like, so much more respect for coaches. Number one, you don't get any credit when you win because the players played well, and you got to take a bullet for them when they lose. We didn't set them up properly.
I give my coaches credit. You know this, you know me, Adam. When Bobby was on here on Twitter, I'd be going crazy. I'm like, yo, how do you not win Coach of the Year 3 years in a row? I tell people all the time, I'd be on Twitter like, yo, CPL, One Soccer, what are y'all doing? Like, dog, like, we're not doing this by ourselves. And that's what a lot of people like. When Edmonton beat us, they had a game plan and they executed it. Obviously, the goals that went in were crazy, but like, they executed every time they play against us, they execute it to a T. They don't go and think like, yo, we're gonna play our game, we're gonna ball these guys off the park. They're like, yo, Forge is a good team. Forge is a great team. We're gonna get our opportunities because they're gonna play expansive and we're gonna counter because they have pace and athleticism up top, and we're gonna get our chances. Set pieces, counters. And they scored some rockets. And I was like, damn, y'all got it. So I can like, even though I was talking smack, I can respect the team like Edmonton. I get more disrespected when teams try to play toe-to-toe football with me. I'm like, all right, yo, like chill. That's what it's like. That's what it's like. All right, now you're really testing the talent now. Like we have to show you up. So that's another thing. But like I said, I can ask you a lot more questions about coaching. So you're in the CPO.
Yeah.
2021, after 2021, they decided to fold the team. What was your reaction about like folding a team that's been there before Whitecaps too? It was been there since 2007, something like that.
Yeah,
like,
man, it was.
Edmonton is a really like a staple team.
It was around
in
before
the Canadian soccer.
teams, yeah,
that's what I mean. So it's like, how do you what was the reaction of all of that, like behind that?
Yeah, I left after the to go through all that, and then after that 2022 season, they folded. So I was watching them in 2022 and obviously cheering for them, but it was tough to watch, man, because you see what transpired, and the team didn't have the resources to put the best group out there, and it sucked. But they did what they could with what they had. And then at the end of the 2022 season, I just felt for like the hardcore fans. That was the thing that really got me, because there's people who were like fans of that team since, like you said, whenever they started, a long time ago when they were NASL, and they've had some really good times when no other team in Canada, like soccer is booming right now in Canada, and it's continuing to grow. But you think back to like when Vancouver wasn't even or close to being an MLS team, and it was just Toronto at the time. Montreal hadn't come in, and you had the Fury, you had FC Edmonton, the Caps in USL, and there wasn't much going on, but Edmonton had a team, and they had the support. So yeah, I hope it goes back there one day, because it's a really cool place, and it's a soccer town. Like, you see some of the players that are produced from there, and
the national team game against Mexico, people were standing in fucking -40.
One of the most memorable games I've ever been to.
Yeah.
Like,
you were there?
Yeah, man.
We played. Oh, we played against. Was that 2021? Yeah, we played against y'all.
That's right.
We tied. Yes, tied in the last minute, but like we were upset. None of us were able to go.
Yeah, you guys were already in the playoffs, so I think you already had your mind on something else. But that game was the Azteca. That was crazy, man. And the amount of people that came out to support that, like, it just shows it can be a soccer town, So hopefully it goes back one day when the league continues to grow and they get a hold of it. But yeah, it was tough to watch because I only spent a year there, but you build a relationship with some of the fans and the people in the club and everything around it in the community. So it was tough.
So the CPL is obviously in its 5th year. And I feel like it's on an upward trajectory, in my personal opinion. Yeah. A lot more people are tuning in, a lot more players, like the quality of players are getting better. Adam always talks about the U21 minutes. I also think it's a stupid rule personally as well, because if you're old enough, you're good enough. So there shouldn't be like a limit constraint. Like, if you're good enough at 21 years old, you should be able to play. Like, it shouldn't be like you shouldn't have to force a team to play a certain amount of U21s. So like, what do you think the trajectory of the CPL is? And like, do you think it'll be able, like, certain CPL teams will be able to catch up to MLS teams?
Yeah, I would say, I think right now people forget how good of a level USL is too. And try to compare the CPL to the USL. I think it's not even close right now. I think USL is.
We had that conversation earlier this year. Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. It's, I think that league's pretty close to MLS, and it's a really good level. But the thing is, MLS is moving its ceiling higher, like at a rapid pace. Like every offseason, it seems like teams are just investing in crazy players. I think Busquets is going to
sign
today.
Yeah.
Like, and they're the not only some of the older players that are coming to the league, but some of the young guys that they're bringing in from top teams around the world, players that are deciding MLS over Saudi Arabia or maybe the Eredivisie or the league in Holland, like top leagues, players are deciding MLS over that. So it's really tough to catch because of the investment in it right now. I think it will be tough for the CPL to be at the level of it anytime soon. But I think there's still a place for the CPL, and it gives opportunity to Canadian players. You look at some of the guys who have come through the league who are now playing for a national team. Like, you got to think, would they have been there if the CPL wasn't a league? So it definitely has a place in the pyramid. I just don't see it competing with MLS anytime soon because of the rate of how good MLS is getting these days with its investment.
Well, it's also
So,
like
like,
you look at where MLS was when it like it almost went under how many times, like, and again, like, for me, it'll never get to that level, and it has nothing to do with the football aspect. We don't have 350 million. We have 35 million people in this country. Like, you can only invest so much because the audience is only so limited.
That's
like
true.
That's the hard, like, that is just, like, it's a sobering
hard truth. It's a hard truth.
But it's also like, that's why I don't think the Saudi Arabian thing's gonna work. I'm sorry, who is gonna pay to watch that? They don't have a population that's gonna do that. And I'm sorry,
I'm not staying up to watch that shit.
I'm not paying to watch Cristiano Ronaldo.
And I'm not recording it either.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong.
If you don't watch football live, I'm not watching.
Bernardo Silva now apparently going, like, they're going after the younger guys for sure, but one or two of them isn't going to do anything. Like, they need an entire league of it, and that's not going to happen. So like, I don't even see that really taking off. And so, like, and Shazzy, I completely agree. Like, I think the goal should be the USL. If you can catch up and you can get to USL, where producing in CPL is not just like, oh, you're called up into national team camps, which would be phenomenal, but it's like you're called into, like, no, like, you're gonna, like, people are coming in to buy you for the next step automatically, right? It's kind of like what Richie did.
Instead of me going to preseason with Vancouver and Daniel Cruz,
instead of a trial,
the better players,
trial. You're pulled in, you're signed, right? You're signing a transfer fee, like Richie going to Nottingham Forest. Like, that's where MLS is. If you do well, you're gonna get signed, not offered a trial.
Someone said it's like it's breaking the top 10 in leagues now, MLS. I think it's like number 10. I don't know.
It's number 9. It's number 9. It's number 9.
Number 9.
We were having that argument whether it was top 10 or not.
It's better. It's better. I personally think it's better than the Portuguese league. Personally.
There's a debate for that. I don't think it's ahead of the championship, though.
No,
it's not ahead of the English championship.
It's not. I've had so many debates. I've had, like, I was saying, like, my Forest 2021 team would have been mid-table in MLS, I think. Bro, Montreal finished top 3.
Hot take. I'm not going to say anything about it, but it's
Montreal was top 3 that year. When we played them, and we played them to a penalty shootout. I'm not saying. I'm saying if we have the same resources, of course, but I'm saying, like, at the same resources, obviously that matters, and being able to get players of that same quality. But I'm saying, like, that starting 11, we would not. I don't think we'd get a wooden spoon. 110%, because we had a lot of guys that played at that MLS level as well. So that's what changes the dynamic. It's not like, okay, we had like 3 guys that were in MLS. We had guys that played in Europe. We had guys that played at MLS and national team. And I'm saying, maybe include David Edgar before retirement. but even then, I think because of how well we did in CONCACAF against those other teams, I was like, maybe on a week-to-week basis, we would have struggled because you're playing tough competition all the time. But I also think we would have adapted. And I believe in Bobby's coaching. So I think that would have helped us.
Yeah. Do you see there's a big difference now between like you playing CPL, you playing USL? Like, what's the difference, do you feel?
To be honest, I got injured a week before the season started.
Okay. So you haven't really experienced it yet.
I haven't really experienced it yet. But, like, just seeing it personally, I definitely do think the USL is better. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. USL is closer to MLS than CPL is closer to USL.
Yeah.
There's a lot of USL teams that can compete in MLS.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
further down the evolution. Well, Pittsburgh went to the semifinals of the Lamar Hunt Open Cup. Like that's typical, and it's funny because you now see at the MLS going, yeah, we don't want to participate in this anymore. That was a quote that came out where he's like, it's just not good enough competition for our MLS teams, and you're like, well,
that's a
because
lie.
Part of it, it's like there's a number of USL teams that keep making the quarterfinals and now semifinals, right? So now they're losing money and they're bitching about that, right?
But do you know why the reason is though? A lot of domestic players, American domestic players, are not getting opportunities at these MLS clubs because these MLS clubs are going to Central America and South America to buy players that are probably not better than these North American guys, but because they can make money as a sell-on. So it's like, okay, why am I going to invest in an American player when I could get a guy from South America who probably has more potential and sell him on for more, and he'll bring a bigger audience. So if I sign a U22, a 22-year-old from Venezuela, who's as good as I am, but because he's Venezuelan, the whole Venezuelan community is going to come up, purchase tickets and buy a jersey, etc. But no one's going to know who the fuck I am. And that's the honest truth about it too. So you see a lot more American guys, ex-MLS guys that were like consistent players in MLS that are now in the USL, bringing the quality up of USL. So when they play against these MLS teams, you were like, yo, why are these USL teams beating them? It's like, there's no really big gap in talent if you're excluding the DPs and obviously and those guys. But like from player 9 and down, there's not that much of a gap in talent. It's just opportunity.
Yep, that's it.
I mean, you see that in the championship too. Yeah. Like Jack Grealish was in the championship 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Now he's at City. Wow.
And Next Pro too, right? When you think about Next Pro, that's the challenge we're having is you're trying to produce players from your academy or coming out of college from the draft or guys you find elsewhere. Maybe it's a player you brought from the CPL, like a young guy, and the rate at which the teams are just improving in MLS every year, that gap is getting bigger and bigger. So when a player does go from Next Pro to MLS, like it should be celebrated, man, because it's a big jump. Like it's not going from one tier down. It's a big jump to go from Next Pro to MLS because of I think MLS Next Pro has more exciting potential players who are young and maybe need a few years to grow, where CPL, USL, like you're talking about men who've been pros for 5-6 years at least and know their way around it, but maybe that's their level. They're not pushing on because of like what you talked about. But it is close between those two levels. But with Next Pro, there's still quite a big gap, and so I think it'll be interesting over these next 2-3 years, like where does Next Pro place in the pyramid and how do teams utilize it? Because every team is kind of utilizing it different right now. It's quite interesting. Yeah.
So talk to us about Next Pro. Obviously, I played there last year. You're coaching there last year, and now this year with my guy Rico. That's the boss right there. MLS legend. So yeah, like talk to us about MLS Next Pro. Like my team was more of a veteran team when I was at St. Louis City. A lot of guys that just came from college, average age probably around like 23, around that age. I was the second oldest on the team at 26 years old. But you guys had Simon Betcher, Ali Ahmed go to the first team. You had Mateo, Campagna, and all those guys, like guys that already had first team contracts. What's his name? Was Habibullah? Yeah. He was there as well, training with the first team when I was at Vancouver Whitecaps. Like, tell me how it is, like coaching those kids. And I know they have first team aspirations. Some of them already made the jump. And how was it last year, like preparing them for that jump?
Yeah, I love it, man, because obviously it's results based still, and you want to prepare them for what they're getting into. So you can't just say, oh, it's a development league, and so it doesn't matter if we win or lose, because when they do get the call into the first team, they need to be used to that pressure and that challenge of like, no, all that matters is winning this game. So we can't just talk about development. But in the back of your head, you're like, we still need to work with these guys, players, differently than a first team would, because we can maybe not work as much on the opposition and worrying about tactics at times, and maybe just narrow it down to an individual and like a left foot crossing or something like that. So it's a little balance of both, development. We got a lot of young kids, but also players with the expectation that we need to try and push these guys into the first team and prepare them as best they can whenever that opportunity comes. It could be in a week's time because of injuries, or it could be in a year's time in the off season to help with the roster make of the team. And then I think the other side of it too is like when first team guys are rehabbing or maybe not getting minutes in the first team, we got to create an environment that's competitive enough and has enough quality for them to come down and get minutes, where it's not like just a bunch of kids these guys are playing with. It's a proper professional team. So there's a lot that goes on to try and making it work, but I enjoy it because every player that's in our team, I can strongly say has the potential and has a good shot, whether it's in 2 weeks or 2 years, to crack on with the first team. You know, not all of them will make it, and that's the reality of it. But, you know, if we can really have a few guys pushing on and in preseason and making some tough decisions for the first team to make, then we're doing our job, because it saves MLS teams a lot of it gives them a lot more to spend on the big time guys if your supplemental roster guys or your homegrown guys are providing to the first team. So with the roster build and the salary cap of the MLS, it's a huge impact on how the team is built. Gives you a lot more to work with if you got guys coming through the woodwork with the second team and the academy. So yeah, it's a big job, and something I'm enjoying, because you get a bit of that buzz of like you're in a pro team and you're trying to win, but you're also still working with guys who are not at the level yet and trying to push them up to that and improve them as individuals. So it's good, man.
Shout out to my guy Gio for getting called up, but then not playing, then getting called up again.
Yeah, man. Great guy. Great guy. Yeah. Hopefully he gets a shot. Yeah.
Great guy. Yeah.
Hey, so Shazzy, what's that dynamic like though? You just talked about having to deal with like, oh, guys getting called. You want to create the environment for them to get called up, but then also having to deal with the guys who come down.
Yeah.
Is it difficult at times? Because you guys might have you might have a different group that can play a different style of football. Maybe you guys aren't playing the same formation as the first team. And then you have guys who come down who are like, well, I'm told to do this, so this is what I'm doing. And like, it's a kind of a balancing act, and you kind of have to stay pretty fluid, I would assume.
For sure. Every day is different, because guys from our team are moving up to train with the first team if they need numbers. Guys are coming down to train with us. You may only get one day to prepare for a match knowing who your squad is, and that's just the reality of it. Obviously the priority is the first team and helping them, but yeah, it's a challenge, because obviously different ways of playing and tactically understanding the roles. So it's important. I think this year we're pretty similar with how we play. The first team plays a pretty nice brand of football this year, and it's exciting.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
It's a lot fucking better.
It's
a lot fucking better.
The change from what I was seeing in preseason to, I'm like, God damn, why don't y'all play this like this when I was there?
Yeah, man. It's nice. So it's not too difficult, because they go from playing this style that's exciting, and you know, everybody knows the role. It's very clear. To us, we're not going to be as detailed with what we ask of them. It's more giving them the freedom and the confidence, because a lot of the time they're coming down to be the guy, like to come and ball out for a few games and get their confidence up. So when you go back there, you feel good, you know? So I don't think we're as demanding on that side of it with the guys who come down, but it's fun at the same time, because we have a different lineup every game, and you bring one guy down and it's like the whole vibe of your team changes because of one player, and you know, it shifts to like, hey, let's keep giving him the ball, or you know, let's try to make him successful, because a lot of the times those are your strong players. And so it's different every week. It challenges you as a coach, because you're trying to work out like, do we tweak with how we play while sticking to our principles? But yeah, the changes are good, man. It's all for the first team, so that's the biggest thing, right?
For sure. And just speaking of coaching challenges, Kwame, I don't know if you know this, but Shazi just took charge for the first time as the head coach. He was the head coach for a game for the Whitecaps too the other week. So
what was the result?
1-0 win.
Well
1-0.
Well done. 1-0. You got to retire now. Just retire.
I know. 100% right.
Never taking one again.
Yeah,
Never taking it again. But so just kind of talk to us about that kind of transition, right? Because you're an assistant coach right now, where I know you're training with them sometimes if they need an extra number, and you're jumping in sessions. And
Yeah.
you get to be the assistant coach compared to now being the head coach for a match. Like, what was that kind of day like, and from an emotional standpoint?
Yeah, a little more pressure on you, when you're this assistant, you suggest things, and I suggest a lot, and I think most assistant coaches would say you suggest a lot, and maybe not all your suggestions are taken, but that's your job, is to make suggestions. When you're the head coach, you don't make suggestions, man, you make decisions. So it's a little more pressure, but no, it was fine, man. Rico, he's on the pro license right now with US Soccer, which is kind of cool. And so he's gaining a lot of new knowledge and bringing it back to the team. But we just kept consistent with how we always do things. It was just a different voice on the sideline. Maybe I'm having a bit more of a go at the refs, but besides that, nothing changes. Nothing changes.
Oh, that doesn't change either. When did that ever change?
Yeah.
Any banter from the boys? Is going, oh, look who's big time now.
No, they poured
They're
water on me at the end and did their whole song and dance. But other than that, it was same as always. Nothing really too different than how we work in the week, how we work for the game.
Mhm.
Just the same, like you guys talked about, same vocabulary, just different
Mhm.
voice. So yeah.
That's cool, man. No, 100%, man. Wow. I'm trying to think. Do I have any more questions? Oh, so a lot of people are saying after Canada's loss to US,
Yeah, we gotta
John
bring that
Herdman,
up.
yeah,
No.
John Herdman should get sacked. What do you think? I'm
I
going straight
don't
to it.
know.
I'm going straight to it. There's
Yeah, man.
okay. I'm gonna
Jugular.
give you a quick detail thing. They're saying that it's great that he got Canada to this point, but for Canada to take the next step, we need a coach that has a higher tactical knowledge, or a coach that. So I seen something on CBC Sports on just a backstory on Instagram saying that they said that John Herdman seems scared. What's his name? Hercules. What's his name? The
Hercules
Mexican
Gomez?
guy. Hercules Gomez. Yeah, he said that it seems like John Herdman's scared to play Alfonso in his proper position where he's the best in the world at. Instead, he wants to play him higher up the field so that it makes Alfonso happy. And then, like, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
in that sense, it's like you have to bench a guy like Tejan Buchanan, who's at Club Brugge, also at a high level. Obviously not at Bayern Munich, but also at a high level, but he's on the bench. Like,
Yeah.
my thing is, why can't they play at the same time? But Alfonso just plays natural position. You can still be the best player on the field, but at left back.
Yeah. Okay. What
That's what they were saying. So
Yeah,
do
yeah.
you think that like John Herdman deserves to continue the job, or do you think that like not maybe he does deserve to continue like still have the job, but do you think he needs to like step up the tactical aspect? Because now Canada has everyone's looking at Canada like, hey, these guys are actually really good. So now people are actually really prepared, legit, like they're preparing for Canada.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, we can't go with the same underdog mentality anymore because we're not really underdogs in North America.
Right.
Here comes a Bobby answer. He's going to say a lot without not saying anything.
No,
Yep.
come on. I what I'll say to that, and we're in season, so I wasn't following the CONCACAF Nations League too closely. We watched the game, but I didn't know like what was going on with lineups and stuff like that. But with John Herdman, I don't know him personally, but
his son's on your team. Don't do that.
That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, all right. I like that.
But no, what I'll say about that is when he was coaching the women's team, and when he was coaching the women's team, I used to be a training player, like to help him out, and more for me just to see how they do things and see how he runs things from a coaching side. But I would help him out and jump in sessions, and the detail this guy goes into is like next to none. And I'm sure people will question decisions he makes and his staff makes on how they do things, but he would have thought of every possible thing, analyzed every scenario, and goes what he thinks is the best. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. That's coaching. But I would say that you look at where Canada was before he took the team, and you look at where they are now and where they can still be. What I've always liked about him when I listen to interviews and his talks, like I'll learn something about his style of play and how they do things, and then he'll switch it up and he'll keep it fresh and he'll do something different because he's always kind of pushing that boundary, not just with Canada soccer, but like world football. Like he's bringing in different people every camp and trying to gain knowledge and get a little edge and even small, fine marginal things. So I'm a big fan of how he does stuff. Just look on the outside looking in. And I think we keep going with them with the World Cup, with how things have gone. And again, I have no skin in this game. I'm just a coach from the outside looking in. But man, you got to admire and respect where he's taken the program, not only with the individuals that he's brought in, but how he's created like a pathway from youth all the way up on the women's and the men's side. And you look at the women's team that he had, when they won when they were bronze, back-to-back bronze, Olympic gold medalist, or bronze medalist, and those women that are still in the game, like coaching or doing other stuff, you got to respect, and all of them, no one has a bad thing to say about the guy. Like, he's a motivator, he's a leader, and okay, decisions may not work out at times, but he's going to be going through every possible scenario before making that decision. So it's like, you can't question his work rate and his desire to try to grow this program. So yeah, I'm on the bus, man, to 2026, and I'm gonna go with that take until I change my mind. But that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you go with anyone else unless it was Ancelotti. Like if you're gonna, yeah, but if you're gonna go to someone who's a lateral move, I don't really know who you would go get, if I'm being honest. I don't.
Patrick Vieira.
As an international manager?
Why not? US does it.
Different.
He's got no experience in it.
Club managing and international is very different.
Oh no, I don't doubt it 100%. But like eventually, like those big coaches are gonna have, you know what I mean? Like you start somewhere.
Oh, for sure. 100%. Yeah. I just like
start somewhere else. Then if you get good, you can come back. Where we're at now.
With where we're at. Like that's no. Like with where we're at.
He was in line. He was in line to be the next US coach. And assistant coach is going to be Thierry Henry. Imagine that. But yeah, now y'all not saying nothing. Patrick Vieira was the coach and Thierry Henry was the assistant coach. Y'all be like, damn, there's really he has that shit. He's supposed to be bopping on the field.
Honestly, though, Henry's not got a great managerial record, though.
But he's an assistant. Like you said, you just suggest things. So him as
be good.
But now he has John Herdman has Phil Neville, and I forgot the other guy that they hired. So I mean, Phil Neville doesn't have a good record either.
Yeah, and you got to remember the resources that Canada Soccer has. They're not working with 100%. A whole lot. Like they're not doing
like US, yeah.
So he's doing the most he can with what he's got right now.
100%. No, I don't think they should move on from him. Like you said, if it's a lateral move, you don't like. There's no point.
Yeah.
But I just think like you should be able to put the best 11 on your team. Like on the field.
The problem is you have a decision.
That's the thing.
Make. You have a decision to make, right? So you can't start. You can't have Richie, Fonzie, Tajon, Jonathan David, Kyle Larin all on the pitch at the same time. Yeah, like you can't. So
but why not?
What do you mean why not? Why not? You can't play JD as a 10. Your midfield is decimated. You don't have a Tiba back there. Kone's not at the level yet. So
you play they were playing a 4-4-2 all Nations League.
All Nations League? They played three.
They just played three at the back.
They just played three at the back.
Yeah, but they played a 3-5-2.
You have Vittoria, Kamal, Alistair.
And Alistair.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like they were playing Jonathan David and Kyle up top. They started Osorio. Osorio's the only one that probably should have never started.
Who else plays in the center of the park though?
You have Kone and Eustáquio. You can play a 4-4-2 with Canada.
And
why not? Eustáquio covers a lot of ground and Kone does as well.
Okay, 4-4-2. Who plays right back?
Second striker. Whoever's playing better at that. I'm not saying anyone's better, but I'm saying you got to be put your best 11. So whoever's playing better at that point in time, then you play them right back. And Richie's my best friend, and I'll tell him the same. He's like, yo, if Alistair's balling over you, then like, yo, it's just the reality of professional sports, bro.
The tough one too, like a lot of these guys came in from like a full season, they didn't have a break. So it's like, how fresh are these guys too? You know, like
and a lot of them came in. Alistair, Sam, they came in with a couple injuries. Fonzie came in.
2 sessions.
Fonzie's. This was Fonzie's first game in like 3 weeks or something like that. The Panama game. So
I'm
I
excited for Gold
understand that.
Cup though. Gold Cup's gonna
Yeah.
be exciting.
But
'cause
none of the
it's young guys a lot.
European guys are playing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I like
They didn't last time.
like man,
Those guys
the
didn't play
dark
last
horse,
time.
Like Vic Laturi, Ali
Yeah.
Ahmed, these guys,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see them at that
I'm
level.
excited to see, yeah, same.
They're gonna
Well,
I'm excited to see Jamaica. They brought
Damari Gray.
Damari Gray,
Oh,
Mikel
wow.
Antonio, and
Yeah.
Leon Bailey.
Fuck, they
Bro,
had
Mikel
that.
Antonio-
They had that in qualifying, man. They do that every year. They're
Brother,
it's gonna
bro-
bust.
brother, Mikel Antonio is also, that was his first time playing with Jamaica. He hasn't played a Honduras ever in his life. So you have to he hasn't played in these places ever. You have to get people have to get used to it. You know what I mean? But are you playing in Gold Cup in the States or in Canada and you're playing on proper pitches, like not hostile environment, like
yeah.
he's stronger than everybody.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I'm not just meaning that. It's what's behind him though. It's everything
That's what I'm
going on
saying.
behind him. Like
That's
where
the only
their
thing. That's
But-
the only thing, yeah.
Nice thing for Canada too. Like again, those European guys aren't there. This was Tajon's biggest coming out party.
Yeah.
4 years ago?
So who's
Or 2 years
up
ago.
next?
He was unbelievable.
That's right.
But so Shazi, here's just a quick question for you. Obviously, being a coach now and everything you talks about with Herdman, when you see like certain decisions made, do you find them like, oh, that's interesting, I wonder why he thought that? Or do you, like, again, as someone sitting on the outside, it's hard to now sit there and analyze and go, yeah, he made the wrong decision there, because you're only watching the finished product of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
You don't
like
know what
for
goes on in training. You
Yeah.
don't know what goes
Yeah.
on.
I give
like,
coaches
how-
credit, man.
Yeah.
like for me when
I blame the
watch them-
players more. I'm a player. I blame the players a lot more. It's like, all right, yo.
No, it's true though, man. Like you don't know what's going on in training, where their heads at, maybe personal things guys are going through, the travel, all this information now too with like the data that these guys go through and the statistics is
They're-
crazy.
do you find
They're-
that
they're-
it's now trying to
their
turn
club
too
teams-
much that way?
Their club teams telling you, yo, you only can play
That-
this much.
Yeah, that's another one, man.
Well, it doesn't
Yeah.
help when
Mhm.
the club's worth 10 to 20 times the
No.
amount your federation is. Like
No.
that really doesn't help. But
Like that's the downside of it. We've done a good job putting a lot of good Canadians in like proper teams now.
Yeah.
But that's the downside of is trying to work with these guys where they're playing in competitions every second week, some of these teams, right?
Yeah.
So but yeah, you don't know how they train, you don't know maybe we don't look at the opposition and what they've been doing going into a game as much as the staff would be and
Yeah.
how they're going to approach a game, because some coaches really value that, like, oh, this team is a high pressing team, so maybe the technical center back we don't need because we're just going to go long. We need the big guy who's going to win balls at the back. So there's things like that too. How much importance do you place on like what the opposition's going to do? And it's just tough to look on the outside. I think on the inside, you as a coach, you're given so much info, and then you got to filter through it all to see what works. And whatever decision you make, you're always going to be questioned on it.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, we don't know what the hell's going on for these sessions. We just see the end product, like you said.
Yeah, because I know like when like looking back, I was saying that I'm like the way the US set up comparatively to Canada, it was like for me, you can't play Kyle in that game.
No.
You can't. You're gonna play him on a counterattacking game where you're launching stuff into the box because he always finds space.
Yeah.
But for me, whenever I watch him, I don't find like movement specifically sharp trying to break down a line. Jonathan David's so good at that. That's what he's made a living off of so far. But the one thing and you kind of talked about this with Herdman being so meticulous and so prepared. The one thing I've seen from the outside that's been really consistent is they've only really played one way. Where when they can't play that way, they really struggle to get going. You saw it the very first game in World Cup qualifying against Honduras at home, where you're like, oh no, like they struggled then. Croatia, great start, and then they couldn't figure it out because okay, we can't play this way, and then against that team, you're going to get decimated. Morocco was the same thing, and now Panama, again, we're talking about end of a season, tons of injuries, guys like Alistair's hurt, playing all these games still, right? And then the US now sit back and go, okay, try and break us down. We're not going to give you a counterattack. And now they struggle. So it's one of those things where like looking from the outside now, it's like, okay, not that it's been truly a big enough sample size, but you're like, okay, there's a theme developing. So it's one thing for me where I look at, that's the next evolution for this team is can they now not just beat them on the counterattack? Because again, who's going to keep up with Tajon and Fonzie and
Yes.
Rich. Like there's very
Yeah.
few teams
The
in the world
options,
that can. Like,
Yeah.
but now can you progress to that next level now where you need Eustachio and Kone to start finding splitting passes essentially.
Hey, yo, Kone against, I think, was it the States? No, Panama with the outside the foot flick on the sideline. Oh my days. I said, nah.
But
Yo,
he's gonna be a quality player, man. Another year in the championship is gonna be so good for him. It's gonna be so good for him.
He might be out of there, bro.
Oh yeah, what he was doing in Montreal before he left.
Yeah,
it was
he
crazy.
he might be out of there. Yeah, apparently this team's looking at him trying to sign him. In
oh yeah,
yeah.
No, like that. Like that's how big the championship is now. Like, it is such a good league. Like again, 100%. Like I think like they're at the point of the evolution where it's like, okay, we can do this. It's time to now start to gear up for something different because
and it's such a big sample size.
No one's gonna play against. No one's gonna come and play straight up. No one is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's such a big sample size that like those players like in championship that like there's so many games to look at like against the top even like the shit teams in the championship, like you still struggle against them because those guys will sit a back 5, 4 in the midfield, 1 up top and just chill. So like for you to play well against those teams, it's not as expansive as the Premier League where everyone is top tier. So hopefully you can get a big move. I'll see. I mean, we're part of the same agency, so hopefully I can get some bombs dropped.
Well, 2 for 1.
Yeah,
huh?
2 for 1. 2 for 1. Yeah. Yo, let me be his PR, bro. Public rep. But yo, Brendan, I actually have to come off. I got a friend that's coming over.
Yeah.
Last minute thing, but definitely nice to have this conversation. You definitely need to come back on because we need to talk some smack about Forge versus Edmonton. Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna let Jonesy take over. Jonesy, thank you again. I'll holler at you later. Definitely exchange social medias after this. Yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate you having me on, Kwame. Thanks, man.
Nope.
100%. Yeah, no worries, Kwame. Shazzy and I got to get going too. We're going out tonight, so.
Oh yeah, I forgot y'all in the same city. I'd say less.
Cheers, we're down the road.
Cheers, guys. Later.
See you.
All right, Shazzy, we'll wrap this up really quickly. Just want to touch base again, going back to the UEFA stuff here. Just some of the guys you got to meet who were some pretty big players.
Oh, on the courses.
During those courses, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That's another nice thing about them is some of the, I guess, the pros that get expedited through to the courses. Like it's some pretty big names. We were doing a set piece drill or activity. They had a set piece coach working on something or showing us how to work on something. And I was going man mark 1-on-1 against Stevie Taylor, the old Newcastle United center back. Probably should have played for England more than he did. I think he only got a few caps. Did he get a cap for England?
He did, but injuries. I was gonna say you had to do 1v1. Did you just go kick at his knee? It would have buckled.
Yeah. He I mean, it didn't end well. He was destroying me. The guy is unbelievable in the air. And you see this up close and personal, like the quality of a Prem player like that. It's cool to see. Steven Pienaar was on it. He was
Steven Pienaar. That's crazy.
Top pro. It's cool to see. Like, you know, there's a time and a place for coaches who start really early, and I think you see it more now. Like people who didn't play pro and they're growing in the game and they have 10, 20 years of pro experience as a coach before they take on a big team. You see that a lot now in world football, but there's always of course a place for ex-pros because they've lived it. They're the ones who can be in the player's shoes and see what it's like. So guys like that and hearing their stories at the highest level, it's tough to replicate that. So it's cool to see them taking it to a coaching side now too, because think of how impactful that is. Stevie Taylor working with like a center back I think he's in Qatar working with the club there. Like that'd be unbelievable as a player that the little micro coaching tips that he can give a guy on how to head a ball or how to adjust in his movement. 1v1 defending is stuff that so hard to find. So kind of cool to work with them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I've noticed the most just in coaching 12, 13-year-olds right now is when you try and explain it to them and they look at you, you're like, just watch, touch, clip.
Yeah.
Okay. Where is this? Where's my foot planted? Oh, it wasn't next to the ball. You're like, hey, okay, there we go. Next time, stand further away from the ball. Do everything you did right. Just stand further away. It didn't do what you did. I'm 29. It's not going to. Just keep doing it. And then all of a sudden, when they start to see after repetition, okay, I'm starting to figure it out kind of thing. But it's almost the visual side of it of being able to generally sit there and watch. Because I think like the one thing I noticed when we were young, yourself, myself, not so much Kyle, like we're students.
Yeah.
Like you just sat there and you watched and you absorbed as much as you could. And then like, I don't find that they're like that as much now. I don't know how you felt about it.
Yeah. It's more of watching highlights and goals as kids instead of watching proper games and guys in your position and what they do. Like you could name off, the 10 top players of the world in your position, and you're going to training at night trying to do the things they're doing when you watch them on TV, where you don't see as much as that now. And so the technique side and trying to work with players' technique and their understanding of like movements and things like this, it's tough to teach in an hour and a half, especially youth football. You get 2-3 sessions a week. They have to take on things themselves and go and watch games, that's why I really like how we're growing League One now too, because it's given a chance for youth players to go and watch like a proper level, because it's a good level. In Alberta's got one now. Ontario's always had a good level. I think Atlanta, Canada's got a League One. I think I heard maybe like a Prairie division, and that's just going to help grow the game too, because it's one thing to watch a game on TV, but then you're standing on the sidelines and watching a guy and how he behaves, or a girl, and how they behave and how they move, and they get on the ball, players in your spot, and you have proper players to look up to that are standing right in front of you, and you see it all. So that'll be an interesting thing to see how that helps with growing engagement in the game, but also players going out and watching a good level in their own backyards.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the one thing I feel like we've missed a little bit in BC was the fact that, whether it was going to watch, back in the day, VMSL games, or if it was going to watch SFU, UBC, like they're going at the same time as you were training and playing. Like League One's now outside of that. And so, and there's more of them. They're closer. They're more in the community. Like you don't have a reason not to go watch.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's like such a huge thing that, I mean, I'm lucky enough to work with a lot of kids now. I'm like, have you gone and watched, like you say you want to go to UBC? Great. Have you gone and watched how they play? I'm like, no. I'm like, okay, so you don't even know how they play. Like, do you even know if you fit in this? Do you even know if you want to play in that system?
Yeah.
For me, growing up, the school, I wanted to go to UW. I really, like, UW was like my dream school. I didn't really like, it was close enough to home, huge school, would have been a really fun experience. I was lucky enough to play against them. And I sat there and went, thank God, because I wouldn't have fit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have fit.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things where I didn't know at the time, and I lucked out. I honestly did. I don't know where my career would have led me if I done it. So
yeah, for sure. That's a big part of it, is players, they see the name and the logo and the reputation, but a lot of it comes down to like, where's the team at now? When players are looking for university programs to go play in, what is the style? What is not only of games, but like, what's the type of coach that works for you too? Like, is it every player is different. Sometimes there's players where you have a go at them and, 5 seconds later, they've upped their game, where other players, you have a go at them and they crumble. So what is your style? What motivates you? What gets you going? And what teammates, the change, what's the locker room like? That's another big one that gets missed sometimes. So yeah, it's an important piece that gets missed for sure.
Yeah. And I kind of like how you talked about like all these different things right there. Like,
yeah,
I think that's the other side of coaching as well, is it's not just on the pitch. It's not, there's so much more off the pitch that if you're not creating this environment that people want to come to, if kids want to be a part of it, do they want to learn in this environment? Are they just showing up because my parents signed me up?
Right.
You know what I mean? And you mentioned your dad. I'm sure your dad, I was lucky enough to just have a couple sessions with him at SFU. And it was like, you jump in and the environment's great. And you're like, I don't know what the fuck's going on right now. But man, oh man, everyone's ramped up. The energy's good. Okay. I'm like, just doing a finishing drill.
Yeah.
But all right, let's go.
Why is it so high tempo? Yeah.
But like you just like it instantly raises you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I think like that's one aspect that, again, being with someone like Bass now, Bass is fucking awesome, man. Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So detailed and all these things. Like I've learned so much from him. I'm not going down your path by any means, but just to see someone who's thinking about doing that kind of stuff and going down that and looking, you're like, there's a lot of tools there that he has that you're like, yeah, I can see why he's not just been successful at the youth level already, but why he'd be successful at that next level.
Yeah, for sure. And to grow at that quick a pace, because he's only been coaching for a few years, right? But to take things on and continue with fresh ideas and improve your whatever it is, your game model, how you run a session, you know, tweak with it. And that's what I always used to do. Like I would run like with the kids in the afternoon, I would like test new things out, sizes with activities, possessions, maybe try different constraints and restrictions on games. And when I finally perfected it, that's when I'd bring it to SFU session. And when I knew it was right, then I'd try it there. It's kind of like my test lab on the kids, but it takes time, a lot of the time, to get your sessions right and figure those things out. So at the pace that when you see a coach that, goes so quickly through the ranks, and it's impressive because, for a lot of us, it takes time to figure out, how to lead a session, what you're comfortable with, how you lead, how you instruct, how to get through to players. It takes time. So yeah, for sure.
Most definitely, buddy. Hey, you know what? We'll end it there because I got to pick you up here in maybe 25 minutes. I got to shower still. So we got to get going here a little bit. But hey, buddy, thanks so much for having you on. We'll get into a little bit more of the personal, the banter stuff next time. Obviously a lot of stories here, and maybe we'll bring you on for some Gold Cup preview or Women's World Cup stuff, and kind of see where it takes us.
Going on in the summer, lots of tournaments. So I'm up for it, but appreciate you guys having me on. Yeah, it's been good.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man.